to the Journey to Forever podcast, where we discuss the highs and lows of life and love. Join us, your hosts, Flo and
Joe,
for a weekly recalculation of our roots as we navigate the twists and turns with candid conversation, comfort food, and laughter. The game of love is something we all want to win, so there's no end of relationship advice. Whether it be in songs like Ready for Love, books such as 5 Love Languages, or from our favorite relationship therapist, Esther Perel. Today, we are going to discuss some of the relationship advice we have personally received. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss this episode. But as usual, before we hit the road on today's topic, we do our check-in with each other in the segment we call What's Your Story? Joe, what's your story?
Well, hi folks. Welcome to another week. All right, Flo. Got a story to share about a quote you heard or read that has inspired you ever since?
Definitely. I would never forget watching the movie called Renaissance Man, starring Danny DeVito. And I can't remember exactly what the movie was about, something to do with the military. But the long and short of it is that he was speaking to a group of young persons, and he said to them that the decisions you make dictate the life you lead. And I remember watching the movie, actually pausing it at that point in time and writing it down because I found it that crucial, because it made sense. The decisions we make today could affect our life for the rest of it.
Oh, for sure.
So it was one of those things, and I've heard it in those same words in different formats throughout my life, but it remains true. So remember that you always have a choice. That was God's gift to us, free will. And in using that choice, we need to do it with the mindset that what I decide on today or what I decide today can impact us 1 week from now, 1 year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now.
You know, this will also sound familiar. With great power comes great responsibility.
That is true as well. All right, so that was my story. Your story now. Got a story to share about something amusing or unusual that happened during a job interview?
Yeah, it was unusual. I went to this job interview. It was actually back in the day for a promotion. And there were 3 people in the room. The person who runs HR and a manager and his assistant for the department that I was interviewing for.
Mm-hmm.
So the manager there, he's asking his questions, and the assistant is just sitting there staring at me. No blinks, nothing, with the most serious face. So basically the interesting part of this was that it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like an interrogation. Like I was actually a criminal, because this guy was just sitting there with the most straightest of faces and just staring at me, no blinks. So I felt really uncomfortable just having him staring at me. So the person that I am, he began staring at me. So I started staring at him. So the interview basically was no more, because now is your will against mine. Who gonna blink first?
It turned into a staring.
Yeah, because I felt like, are you trying to intimidate me somehow, somewhat?
Right.
Yeah, and I answered their questions just as they asked it. And I gave them alternate answers to the answers that they wanted. And they were like, no, that's not what we're looking for. And I proceeded to say, but am I wrong? And they were like, well, no, but it's just not the answer we're looking for. I was like, that's good. Once I'm not wrong.
What?
Yeah.
Talk about tense?
Yes, that was the most interesting, like, wow, it was ridiculous, you know. That's not a way I believe you're supposed to treat
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I was not on an interrogation.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's that.
Very unusual indeed. Right, now that we've gotten story time out of the way, we move into our topic for today, our relationship advice, or the relationship advice we have received from others personally. You want to start off?
Yeah, well, it's like this. My first one was, I did a survey. I was curious back in the day, getting and realizing your growth. You start to question relationships and what life has in store for you and the mistakes you don't want to make.
Okay.
So I took it upon myself and asked married women, and I'm talking people who were married over 10 years. It was not one of just people who married a year or two.
Okay.
10 years and up, yes, who know what they're about.
Right.
And from what it appeared to me, that they were happy.
Okay.
They would hear them speak about their husband. They would say, oh God, he's miserable, he this and that. But you heard the love in it.
Okay.
That I will not give up this person for nothing.
Right.
So I proceeded to ask them, how is marriage? What makes it work? And they proceeded to say, communicate. You have to communicate. And when you get married, the work now begins.
Okay.
Being together means nothing. But the work really begins when you actually say, I do. Most people would think, oh, this will become easier. I'm married now, so that's it, That is the ultimate goal. I've achieved it. No, they've actually said the work now begins, because they say for some reason, they were women. So they say when a man gets married,
right,
he's for some reason becomes more attractive to other women, especially if his wife is happy.
Okay.
So that is where the work now begins, that you have to up your game, basically, to keep your husband interested. Not to slack off, okay? I'm home, I have him now, so I'll walk around the house holding colors.
Okay.
Or house dress all the time, I don't mean you have times for that, but you would not upkeep yourself as you used to when you were, how would I say, pursuing him.
Okay.
Or to keep his interest. Now you have the ring, it's like, the work is over. No. So that was my first set of advice I ever got from anyone.
Okay, I have to agree with that, because when you decide to be in a relationship, like you and I dating, we committed to each other. There's no contract being signed, as far as I know. At least that's not the regular. However, when you get married, you do sign your name to paper.
Yes.
So that shows you the seriousness of it. And it's also interesting what you mentioned as well, that somehow a married man with a happy wife, so the marriage seems to be successful, both parties seem to be happy. Somehow that seems to attract attention from external parties. Well, those of us who are spiritually inclined, I'm sure you would have heard our preachers say, the marriage is God's institution, so therefore the devil will always send people to attack it.
Yeah.
and the attack comes in various forms.
Yeah, because it shows the different thinking between men and women. I'm just talking from my point of view.
Okay.
That a man would see another guy with a woman.
Okay.
And he would say, I would like to have a woman like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of women, they would see a man with a woman, and they were like, all right, I have to get that man.
Okay, ladies, I don't know if Joe hitting on something.
No low blows or anything, but I have seen and experienced certain things, and But
let us know again on Instagram, Journey to Forever TT. Do you think that that's true generally of men and women, that women would go after a specific man because he has proven to be successful at relationships, whereas guys look for a lady similar to the one that they see in a successful relationship? Let us know. I'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
Let us know. I am curious. I am waiting patiently for your answers and opinions.
Okay. But that piece of advice reminded me of something that my aunt said to me many years ago. She said, don't do anything before marriage that you don't intend to continue afterwards.
Yeah.
We know we're guilty of this. Sometimes if we're pursuing somebody, like you see somebody, you all are not yet in a relationship, you go over the top to gain their attention. But from the moment you are in the relationship with the person, you stop that pursuit. So you stop doing the over the top things. Perhaps, taking them out as often. You stop buying them gifts.
Yeah.
You
become comfortable.
Right. And the pursuit and the attraction or wanes, so to speak. So for me, what prompted her to say that specifically was that I went and I baked some kind of fancy cake or something or the other because it was a family gathering. And I remember her saying that to me. She said it with the best of intentions, but it registered to me like, whoa, that's true, boy. Subsequent to that, I always maintain that piece of advice in my head. Like, some ladies, when they're new in a relationship, they may be cooking very frequently for the person.
Going all out.
But ordinarily, that's not who you are. Yeah. So for me, I learned to show up as I am ordinarily. Yeah. If you are a busy woman, like career-wise, professionally, and you don't necessarily cook every day during the week, Saturday and Sundays are your day to cook, then do that. Let the person learn who you really are.
Yes, let them know the true you.
For me, like, the person might say, but that's not who I married. Like, the person I met and fell in love with was somebody totally different.
Guys, that call, just as work finishes, you see the wife calling and bring bread when you come in.
Y'all, I do not say that. I don't know what Joe is speaking of.
No, this isn't a personal experience, but I've heard many a guy speak of it. They hate that call.
Maybe they're just making sure that he comes straight home. Like, he needs to get him bread and come straight home. Don't stop by the bar. Well, you can't do that these days with coronavirus, but don't stop by the bar. Don't pass and check your friend. Come straight home. Maybe that's the tactic. I don't know.
You have that worry that, oh God, I'm going to eat bread again.
Really? Nah.
Who knows? That's out there. Fellas, let me know.
All right. What other advice have you received?
My other piece of advice came from my mother. And she said, always remember that you have a mother. So treat a woman how you would treat your mother. Respect her. There's no room for no sort of abuse.
Right.
So treat a woman how you would treat your mother.
I like that.
Yeah. That's a very big piece of advice. Yeah. It sits with me today.
And more so if you have children within the relationship, the children would be looking at the relationship dynamic between you and your wife, so it's like, whoa, that would therefore paint the picture in their minds as to what they would live out when it's their turn to be married or in a serious relationship.
Because a lot of people further down in life always say, my father treated my mother this way, my mother, or they will say, my parents never argued in front of us, no matter how bad the situation was. But as they got bigger, they understood, well, okay, my parents are human.
So
and they would have had issues, you know, because as your children get older, you explain certain things to them. You all have certain conversations because your child may be going through a situation and you let them know, hi, have you ever seen me and your father argue in front of you? And you could say no. See, that doesn't mean we didn't have arguments, but we know how to conduct ourselves in front of our children. So you need to do the same and have some respect.
Okay.
You know.
I love that. Thanks for that advice, mommy. Well, the advice I received from my mom was that I should find a man whose faults I could live with, which I found to be so true. Because out of that advice, I understood that, hey, nobody is perfect.
Nobody is perfect.
Nobody is perfect. And secondly, whose faults you can live with. Ladies, we know that everybody would have faults, but could you actually wake up knowing and accepting and loving this person for who they are with their flaws and all?
Yes.
Every day for the rest of your life. And that, I think, was so critical. You know, one, recognizing, hey, I'm imperfect too. No man is perfect. But it's, at the same time, is it something that I could readily close my eyes and it's not going to worry me? Like we mentioned, I think in our very first episode, our quirks, where you left the
cabinet door.
The cabinet door. Like, that is, to me, a small deal, right? So, okay, that might be an imperfection, quote unquote, of yours, but I could live with that. That's no big deal.
Nobody really gets hurt in such a thing.
But if it's something else, you understand, then, okay, I then have to weigh, okay, is this something I can live with or not?
Yeah, I get that.
All right. And my other piece of advice came from my dad, and I really, really appreciated it because it was a really heartfelt conversation. One of the few conversations where my dad was frank about what he believed led to the dissolution of my parents' relationship. And he said to me, remember, when you get married, he said two things. Don't be a nag, but more importantly, keep people out of your relationship. If you and your husband have problems, both of you all need to work it out.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. Now, I appreciate that on top of the fact that I'm naturally a very private person. If you listen to our last episodes about personality, you would know that that's something about my personality type. We don't necessarily open up readily to everybody about everything. So I appreciated that because I saw how in seeking quote unquote advice from others, members of extended family were able to have an input into my parents' marriage problems, and it kind of led to an escalation of the issue rather than a resolution of the issue. Yeah. So for me,
too much cooks.
Right, too many hands in the pot. So I understood about keeping it between you and your husband. That's not to say that if you are having like really, really difficult problems, say don't go to a trusted source. So I'm a proponent, go talk to a therapist if you want, go to a counselor. If you are spiritually inclined and you have that available at your church, maybe there's somebody there that both parties trust and they could weigh in as a neutral third party.
To expand on that, if you need someone to talk to, do not go to someone who would just agree with everything that you say.
Or take one person's side over the other. Mm-hmm.
Go to someone, you would know them. You have people in your life, I'm sure everybody has that one person who would give you straight talk. They would not just agree, yes, you are right. No. And wouldn't just side with you because they see you as a friend and you need support. Probably they don't understand that you just want honesty to come up with the best possible solution and conclusion to whatever situation you may be going through.
Right. But do you think that it's necessary for both parties to agree who that person is? Meaning, you and I get married, and I say, I have this friend, let's call her Jane, for instance, and I think Jane is a straight shooter. She will say it as she sees it. And I don't say, Joe, Jane's going to be my person. If, I'm struggling with something between you and I, she's the person I'm going to go to and X, Y, and Z. Do you think I need to do that check-in with you before I have that conversation with her?
No, I don't think you need to check in.
Okay.
Because some things you just need for yourself. That's yours. You looking within yourself to solve something that you cannot just come out and share with your partner. So you need a third party. If you all want to have that discussion together, it's better to have a neutral person who don't know the two of you all.
Okay.
Who wouldn't want, because if you go together to a friend, that friend would be guarded because they don't want to cause any bias between the two of you all.
Okay.
Because you might be so emotionally heightened that if the friend agrees with me, you probably will be thinking,
but why
is she only taking his side?
Yeah, okay.
But if you go to that friend by yourself and tells you, this is the two of you all hashing it out, saying, well, I know you're wrong and he is right. Or something to that, something like that. You would more understand because I am not there.
Okay, for the record, there's no Jane. There would never be any Jane.
Yes, the true introvert.
I would definitely pay my money, go to a therapist, and let that person give me advice. Because again, for me, this is just my perspective. I really do not like quote unquote friends in my business.
Yes.
I really don't like it. I don't think they should weigh in on my relationship, good, bad, or indifferent. That's the way I feel, because it's almost like if you rave about the good times, the friend will be like, well, why you don't tell me about the bad times too? You understand? So it's almost like if you open the door, they think that the door always needs to remain open. That's me personally. I could be very wrong, but that's just based on, again, my personal experience.
Everyone is different.
Yeah, and the advice from my father. So I'm very guarded as to what I share in that respect with other people. I would definitely vouch for a neutral third party. I will spend my money. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, nothing, different things will work for different people.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have to have the same approach. Do what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
That is honest to you.
Agreed. And maybe you do have friends who can be impartial, who can give you good advice. I just don't trust it.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all the advice we have personally received. But if you have received great advice from people in your life, feel free again to share it with us at Journey to Forever TT. And we move into our third segment, which is Thing to Eat.
Thing to Eat. Well, folks, we are recording this podcast on a Sunday. And normally, where we live, which is Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, we live where you vacation. You see, we go all out here on a Sunday. We make different foods. I'm talking probably like an 8-course on a plate. We go all out.
8 courses?
On just the plate, it's be like, whoa, ram out, where you have to take a siesta come 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. And today is just one of those days where we went really simple, folks. Really, really simple. We made steamed fish, what some people call stew fish. With lots of veggies in it, onions, pimentos, rice and sweet potatoes. It was just one of those simple days where we went into the kitchen and food was basically done in half of an hour.
Yeah.
So this Thing to Eat segment is just to say, have whatever you feel like having any day anytime. Enjoy having meals.
For me, the most important thing is eating together. Like, I enjoy us having those shared meals where we can just kick back and relax and have conversation. And yes, we've said it many times before, we enjoy cooking together. So Joe was making the fish, I was seeing about the rice and the sweet potatoes. And like I say, and like as he said, in half an hour it was done and dusted. But it's just those shared moments. So we can get the food out of the way and then have the afternoon siesta.
Yeah, so I guess this could be some of our advice to you all. Bond over food.
Definitely.
Spend time in the kitchen together. You know, some people like being in the kitchen alone, but it's fun. You know, you laugh, you have the weirdest of conversations. Mm-hmm. Like, how do dolphins sleep? But okay.
All right.
But we all know that story.
All right, talking about stories, we move into our last segment for today's episode. What's filled your love tank? So, Joe, what's filled your love tank this week?
My love tank was filled this week with you being there and not being clingy of sorts, seeing that I had to work so much. Yes, folks, I work a lot, like 7 days a week now. But she's there. She, you know, the little kisses, you know, you come in and you'll get a hug, and it's like, it's so comforting that you get home and it's like, wow, she's like really happy to see you, you know? So it's like, okay, you know, you forget actually, okay, I have to go back to the office in a few hours, you know? So those hugs, those little hugs and kisses, yeah, that really, it gets me through the week.
Okay. I want to say that I paused and I reflected. This is now episode 7 of this podcast that we're recording. And I remember our early conversations about this podcast. Yes, as we said in our last episode, episode 6, we are both introverts. But I'm more of the social introvert. So I can be extroverted at times and I love to have great conversation. I say all that to say that Joe was not the one who was enthused about this idea. But I am happy and excited. When I reflected on it, I'm like, yeah, he's into this as much as I am now. Like, I see how comfortable he's getting with it. So I am grateful that you were willing to step out of your comfort zone to do this because you knew it was important to me.
Yeah. You know, put that smile on your face, try and make it eat.
So thank you for that.
You are most welcome.
All right, people. So that was our advice, and we wrap up episode 7 of Journey to Forever. As usual, we welcome your feedback. Let us know if there are any specific topics you want us to talk about. And you can reach out to us at Journey to Forever TT on Instagram. Again, you can find us on all your favorite podcast apps. We are on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can find us there, as well as on YouTube. But you'd find links to all those things at Journey to Forever TT on Instagram. As usual, thank you for listening. Until next time.
Bye.